getting on. Sat by the fireside, pondering on. Picture book, pictures of your mama, taken by your papa a long time ago. Picture book of people with each other to prove they love each other a long time ago. Picture book, picture book.
Back at it on this second weekend of the 2020 spring meet here at overcast but cool and comfortable Gulfstream Park with the mighty Pegasus standing and I guess watching over us in the backdrop here. Beautiful statue for sure, the mighty Pegasus here at Gulfstream. Little breeze you can tell from the camera outside as we come inside, in fact, and get tied on with the first of 13 coming up at about 12:30, 12:35 p.m. Eastern. Jason Blewett joining you. It's Easter weekend here at Gulfstream Park, and we are indeed, and we're happy about it, running today and tomorrow. Moving forward, just a friendly reminder, post time on Easter Sunday here is noon, about 12:05 Eastern to be more precise about it. So we hope you join us, however, wherever, as we say, all weekend long, and it's good to have your company. We get tied on, and this is very much a card I might liken to a Belmont Stakes or something like that. It is absolutely a marathon and not a sprint with 13 races coming up amid fast and firm conditions. Now, we do have to take a step back and congratulate the three winners of yesterday's Beat the Expert. We had David, Simon, and Jimmy Romano. I went to college with the Jimmy Romano. I may have to do a little recon on that and see if it's the same one for sure. But congratulations to those three winners. Acacia does get a little partial credit, maybe even more than partial credit, because although she did not beat the three gentlemen up there, and you'll receive your Gulfstream Park polo shirt in the mail in the coming weeks, Acacia did like Shared Legacy, who won the 10th race yesterday at 9-1 odds. So a good pick by Acacia there, and let's hope for more of the same. We move forward. We've got a $1.1 million jackpot Rainbow Six guarantee in the mix this afternoon. And again, taking a page from that comment I made a few seconds back, this is a marathon-type program. The Rainbow Six does not start until race number 8 this afternoon. So as we journey to the 8th race point to chase 7 figures in the jackpot rainbow. The best news of all, perhaps, is the fact that you've got some wide open, big fields, competitive races, and a perfect, I think, segue into the first race, which naturally starts the opening pick 5 on this Saturday afternoon. Now, as far as the pick 5 is concerned, I almost feel my confidence in the big favorite, and you can even see looking at the double prices at this point with Safi's Calabrese drop down in the second race, you might almost have a free ride type single in the form of the number 3 Witch Hunter. With her in the mix as she plummets to 12.5, that gave me obviously the ability to spread around and use quite a few horses. No stakes today, but an absolute highlight on the card is that 5th race field, which sees me using 5 in a maxed out maiden turf race for 3-year-old fillies. That race is nuts as far as the pedigrees and the connections and who's going to take a step forward trying the turf today. I've got a bunch there, and I've got some coverage in this first race using every bit of the 1, 7, and 11. Now, there may have been a noteworthy scratch in this first race in the form of the 9 Golden Line of. That does not change my opinion, though, in my top pick, who off the bat, and I thought this was a horse who was a major player and would get bet, the number 1, Bolt, who's favored right now at 9-5. I noticed he was 12-1 in the program. I'm not sure if I'm off or maybe the line is a little out of whack here, but I like the number 1, Bolt. It's twofold here. It's the drop in class as he comes out of a way tougher 3-year-old race. In fact, a whole bunch of horses he faced, including Miami Crockett and Bahamian Prince, are coming back later on this afternoon in the ninth race, and you've got the drop and you've got that speed with the Misael. I was hoping Bolt would just wake up with that big early foot and wire this field from the rail. I like the spot in theory for the 7 Primo Posto, and he looks dangerous to me. I like the drop in class, like the barn a lot. Can he go 5 on the turf? That's the biggest question with him. But I'm going to take Bolt like a lightning bolt, hopefully, right to the top and never looking back in the first race. Let's move on to the second here. We're on the main track. We go a mile. We've got some 3 and up, that is, filly and mare, 12-5 to 10-5 claimers. And this race obviously houses an overwhelming odds-on favorite in the number 3, Witch Hunter, who, I mean, on paper, quite frankly, is a layover. I mean, this race is a mismatch. If you wanted to play devil's advocate, or at least maybe give out a reason why this horse might be a little suspect as a big favorite, you do have a very precipitous drop with a horse who on paper would probably be a short price, or certainly a top 3 betting favorite, running in, say, a $40,000 maiden claimer as opposed to today's $12,500 claiming tag. But this is the move that Calabrese does. Frank Calabrese and Safi, I'm singling the 3 Witch Hunter, who again on paper, it's just a complete mismatch. Moving on to the third, things open up here as we come up on this $50,000 to $40,000 maiden claimer on the dirt, and all things are a little less cut and dried. In fact, far less cut and dried than they appear on paper. In the second, you've got another Frank Calabrese-owned Safi horse in the mix in the 5 Chill Haze, who I have got in the second spot here as that horse goes off the claim for Safi, who's got speed. And needless to say, Safi's number with maiden claimers off the claim, he's 8 for his last 25. It's a good move there. I also believe trainer Mike Tomlinson is dangerous with his 1-2 punch, and I like the drop in class for the 4 Queens Mason, who's just faced better throughout his 7 races to date, and he'll show some speed, I would have to think, dipping down in class with the Misael, and maybe some improvement. In fact, let's hope there's some improvement coming from the rail with the one He's a Babe, who is second time out for Mike Tomlinson, picking up Dylan Davis, coming out of a near 40-1 defeat against Special Weight Company. Let's move on. Race number 4. We have a 2 lifetime 6250 3-and-up claimer in race number 4 this afternoon, and I almost put the big 2 in this race, the number 2 Free Flame and the number 3 Enzo Express. I put them, not only are they going to separate themselves just in terms of sheer betting, but you've got one in the case of the 2 Free Flame who's in his own little spot, because I think it's safe to say he's had the best recent form here at Gulfstream and has had that by a pretty wide margin regarding his sharp consistency of late. The speed drop down in the other corner is the 3 Enzo Express, who's in off a little bit of a layoff. In fact, has not run since last autumn, late September, at Churchill Downs, and takes a big plummet here for trainer Larry Ravelli. The speed to catch on the drop, I want the form against the big speed there, the number 3 Enzo Express. Here's the 5th race. Now, this race is an absolute skullbuster. I mean, you have got, when you start to add up some of the auction prices in this race, I mean, you might have $2.5 million, $3 million worth of blood stock in this race, couple of horses by American Pharaoh, and just no one has really distinguished themselves. What complicates matters, aside from just the field size and the pedigrees and the connections, no one really has distinguished themselves thus far, the ones that have already raced. Now, going forward, just about everybody in here is either running for the second time or trying the turf for the first time, and it's a first-time turfer who I picked on top for trainer Mark Cassey. And let's backtrack to a few weeks ago. In fact, right at the tail end of March, up at Palm Meadows and that beautiful turf course they have up in Boynton Beach, I like the work out of the British-bred Lashara, and we're looking at her as she is the horse breezing inside of her stablemate. Love the way the rider is just basically sitting chilly on this filly by American Pharaoh, who, in looking at this breeze, and I will not come on the air and say I'm the best expert judge of just watching workouts and grading them per se, but I like the fact that the rider just seemed to have a ton of horse beneath her. And looking at the pedigree of the 6 Lashara, she has found her way onto a pretty robust and extensive Bluett's Bullets list. You've got a dam here in the form of Maubrey Rose, who, if memory serves, was trained by Christophe Comont, won 3 races on the turf for nearly $250,000. So I'm looking for her her to move up. Meanwhile, the other American Pharaoh filly is the 3 Egyptian Princess. The dam won 4 turf routes for $200,000. She's probably going to take her game forward this afternoon for trainer Brendan Walsh, and she'll have a Misael. You've got the Chad Firster, the number 5 Church on Time, debuting as a daughter of Honor Code, Medaglia d'Oro Dam, who won 4 races on the dirt, 2 on the synth for about $300,000. And Chad has had success with the family, considering Competition of Ideas was trained to a Grade 1 American Oaks win at Santa Anita Park a couple of years back. Already mentioned my top pick, Lashara, and let's not forget Champagne Lady towards the outside from Mark Hennig. She's the Uncle Mo filly, cost close to $900,000 as a yearling. Although she's been a well-beaten horse in 2 races on the dirt, she maybe wakes up today as a full sister to a Grade 1 Hollywood Derby winner in Motown, who really got good late in his career, that 3-year-old season a few years back for trainer Tony Dutrow. Crazy competitive race, and I didn't even include in the bullets, because she's already raced on the turf, a Todd's filly in the mix, the number 1 Messina, who got bet and just did not run here on Sunday, Super Bowl Sunday, February 2nd, losing to a sharp Godolphin Kieran horse at the time in Sea of Blue. That race has produced 1 next out winner from 3 to come back on the turf, and clearly Messina, you would hope anyway, is going to improve in her second start. Just a fascinating 5th race, and although not a part of the big 7-figure Rainbow Six, it does look to me anyway to be a real standalone event midway through this card. We don't miss a beat, though. That's the reality, folks, on this Saturday, April the 11th here at GP, as we move back to the main track and come up on race number 6, which is a maiden special weight for 3-year-olds and up. Now, this race had an important defection of the 10, in fact, 2 defections. The 12 Bahamian Beat, but more importantly, the 10 Victory Town, who's entered tomorrow afternoon here on Easter Sunday in a Florida-bred restricted maiden race for trainer Mark Casse. That looked like the more conservative, and I felt the more pragmatic spot, and I think it's a good move scratching Victory Town to await the Florida-breds tomorrow. I mention all that because the 13 I'm a Pharaoh draws into this race off a good debut. Colt got a good figure, ran pretty well as more or less tracking 3-wide speed, and was just outfooted late by Cajun Brother, who was along the rail. He just couldn't put that horse away. I'd expect yet another American Pharaoh, 3-year-old on the card, to improve in his second start for trainer Todd Pletcher. I also think you're not going to be getting a big price on the 6 War Detonator, who is a colt by Warfront. I'll be surprised if this horse isn't bet this afternoon. Is kind of like a wise guy, maybe story horse. I haven't heard anything, mind you, but he has the look with that really sharp, swift-looking pace and park tab, and the fact that he had been bet so strongly in his only race late in his 2-year-old season back in 2018. He looks like he could be a little bit of a wise guy horse, especially when you consider Tyler's riding him off the trainer change and long layoff for Christophe Comont. Second dam of this horse, who's by Warfront, is Wild Spirit, who was trained by the late Bobby Franco to multiple Grade 1 wins. And I'm thinking the 6 War Detonator is a real wild card and bet horse this afternoon in race number 6. We've also got to mention the 4 who I have capping that trifecta, the number 4, Mr. Winston, who's trained by Chad and debuting as a colt by Looking at Lucky, out of a dam who went 1 for 10, and her lone win was sprinting on the dirt as a 2-year-old. Another good-looking work tab of late up at Payson Park for the 4, Mr. Winston, who debuts for Peter Brandt and Robert LaPenta. Race number 7 is up next. We're on the turf. Older claimers in the 7th race, $16,000 to $14,000 tags, and I like just the last effort, aesthetically speaking, and even more than that for the number 7 Derby Champagne. And why don't we take a step back? This was in the days leading up to the Facing Tipton Fountain of Youth. In fact, towards the end of February, thought this horse for a $25,000 claimer just caught a very deep field. It wasn't an expansive field because it was only 6 horses per se, but I just think for a $25K claimer, even during the primetime winter racing season at Gulfstream, this was a very salty field. And as you can see, you've got Derby Champagne taking the lead, doing everything, but holding off the Ramsey horse for Mike Maker on the outside, who just had, blocks and blocks of back class in the form of Solio. I like Derby Champagne off a tough loss, but a good effort last time out, returning and running big this afternoon over the number 9, Solar Warming, who can switch hit. His best race may have been last time in an off the turf race, but his grass races have been okay throughout the years for trainer Elizabeth Dobles. Moving on to the 8th race, you got to wait though. Little teaser. We'll take a quick time out. Speaking of teasing, we've got Ron Nicoletti's Rainbow Six, so you're not going to want to miss that. Back with more after this.
And they're off. Second in the two path. Round off first inside. Race. A quarter of a mile to go, and he's 6 yards out. Last of the 12 as they roll into the backstretch.
Hey, everybody, back on this live Saturday edition of Gulfstream Park today. A baker's dozen on this fast and firm Saturday, April the 11th. What are we at? 5, 6, day number 7 of the 2020 spring meet, moving right along, and we absolutely appreciate you joining in, and best of luck throughout the afternoon. Perhaps one man who's so good here at Gulfstream who doesn't need any luck is our Gulfstream guru, Ron Nicoletti. He's got, good news for all of us, a Jackpot Rainbow 6 ticket, and he upped the ante. We are in 7-figure territory with that 1.1 mil guarantee, and as a result, Ronnie really went heavy-handed, 3-horse spreads in every single leg. He's got a ticket clocking in at $145.80. I'm not sure who the Nicoletti long shot is on the afternoon. I know he'll be making a few off-site videos for us, and I can tell you he is 1-2-10 to start. Ronnie and I, a little bit of a disagreement to start things out in this 8th race opening leg. In fact, I see he didn't use the Pletcher firster, the number 7 Colonel Liam, who cost a lot of money and I felt as though might come firing out this afternoon. Ronnie very much in the camp of Chad Brown with the 1 per capita, the 2 Cornbread Kingdom for Dale, who was well bet and didn't run last time, and the number 10 horse on the outside, and Fugitive, who's a second-time starting colt for trainer Mike Maker. I, of course, just went to the Pletcher factor with Louis riding the 7 Colonel Liam, who may not win this race, but has to be considered a major, maybe top 2 pre-race nugget or story going in, along with the Chad horse, who's coming back off a Saratoga layoff. More on him in a second. But let's get down to business with the 7 Colonel Liam, who, I mean, really draws a ton of quality going back to his 2nd and 3rd generations on the female side. In fact, his second dam, the multiple Grade 1 winner who I loved, in Wonder Again, who was trained by Jimmy Toner, and this horse has been training regularly up a little north of us, not all that far from Palm Meadows at Palm Beach Downs. Decent little breeze here on the morning of February 22nd for this former. Listen to this. This horse went for $1.2 million at the Gulfstream OBS sale last winter here. This horse, or rather not at Gulfstream, but just OBS April 19. That one up in Ocala. Horse originally sold as a yearling for $50,000 and was pinhooked for a bigger sum of money than what's guaranteed in the Rainbow Six today at $1.2 million. He had breezed a quarter mile in 20-4 in that sale and is the 3rd foal out of an unraced dam. But again, you've got Wonder Again and all those solid Phillips turf horses that Jimmy Toner seemed to train, all of them in the female family in 2nd generation. So I'm taking the Todd Firster here, and I love Liam's map as a stallion. But of course, you've got to mention the Tappet colt on the rail for Peter Brandt and Gainesway in the 1 per capita, who's coming back in. Seemed to get bet and seemed to be a horse who didn't run all that well during the summer portion of his 3-year-old season. He also strikes me as a colt that Chad has obviously wanted to get a little bit of distance into, considering he debuted him last June up in New York at 7 and immediately stretch him out to a mile and a furlong. How will he do here, going a one-turn mile, kind of a speedy one-turn mile at Gulfstream Park with a horse that looks like more of a one-run type chug-along grinder? We'll see as he goes from the inside post with Tyler Gaffalione. I went Todd over Chad and tried to cap things with the 9, Mr. Jaggers, who is cutely named and coming out of 2 defeats as the favorite on the turf last season on the grass in the Big Apple. Let's turn the page. We'll move on to race number 9. We will start our Saturday late pick 5, and this is a insanely difficult sequence. I think you got a real sense looking at Ronnie's 3-horse spread in all 6 races in the Rainbow Six today at just how difficult a card this is in late pick 5 and Rainbow Six sequence. Trying to keep the cost somewhat in line at a ticket I would actually play, I wound up, just for better or for worse, I stood alone with the 10 Battle of Blenheim in the 11th race. He can't make any mistakes in that spot, and his margin for error is slim. But I think he's going to get the trip that he prefers, either on the lead or preferably tracking outside, and he's going to be favored there, and I'm hoping he can get it done, even if it's a slim win, and somehow I could string together 4 of the winners in this $27 play. That off the bat, I am too deep in race number 9 as we bring on the 3-year-olds. Now, one of the reasons I like Bolt, who's 2-1 in the early betting in the first race, is because I feel as though the Bahamian Prince Miami Crockett race was pretty good. Now, Bolt is coming out of that race, and we'll see, in fact, Miami Crockett and Bahamian Prince and a few others dropping out of this March 5th race, where Miami Crockett just did not want to lose. You can see how resolute and just implacable this horse was, as at this point an outside speed. Bahamian Prince really got a good trip, although I'm thinking he may have been, maybe he doesn't win, maybe he's a little closer at the finish line if Paco was able to extricate him off the inside. It looked like he was trying to get out and then was forced to just kind of make that slog. It's always tough for horses to gain ground and pass horses when you're forced to rally inside, and he kind of got stuck down in there in the quicksand, more or less, and finished 3rd, beaten about a length. But Miami Crockett was very game. Here's the thing, though, coming back. Miami Crockett moves outside in a race that is just loaded with speed types, and I just ultimately felt as though he might really get hung out to dry chasing or vying through what could be a very fast pace. So I'm going to give one more chance to the 5 Bahamian Prince, as I thought he might just get the best trip. But, I mean, you've got the Ralph Nix horse, the 2 Gimme 20, who is obviously coming out of a turf debut victory, and it was a good ride and a good trip and a good effort, and only one horse has come out of that race living vicariously, who came back and promptly won for a maiden 50. And then we've got Michael Dubb as the owner with the new maker claim, the number 4 Young Raymond, who may play part in an incandescent pace, a pace that could be very fast, but that horse worth a look. I'm going to go 5-2-4-1 in the 9th race. As we step back onto the main track, moving on to Saturday's 10th race, we hit double digits here and start the late pick 4 with race number 10. Nice one, too. 3-year-old fillies in this high-priced allowance optional claimer. Big fan of Brendan Walsh, and he is bringing the number 7, Last Chance for Love, in from Fairgrounds off a solid win. Now, things in terms of just pace might be a little more difficult in this spot as she draws outside the 5 Wanderlust, and they may play out as the 2 speeds down the backstretch. I am hoping she'll take a step forward, and I would imagine with Brendan, who I consider, although more of a new kid on the block, he really, with his Irish background, he strikes me as more of like an old school, got that old school vibe, which is a good thing with a young, talented, lightly raced horse, and hopefully we get some improvement out of a filly. The other side of the coin is, and I've got to mention this, looking at the charts from Fairgrounds from February 21st, she was one of 7 wire-to-wire winners over the dirt that day. So she may have caught a track, in fact, probably caught a track, very kind of early speed. Just wanted to point that out. Then we have Mark Casse in the mix with the 6th chart. Gary Contessa retiring from training, and that means this horse does go from Contessa over to Mark Casse. Before trying the Devona Dale at over 20-1, her first start was a good effort up at Tampa with a good figure, and she looks dangerous to me. And I thought of the 1 Bernie he might run well on the dirt for a second time. Only one horse has come out of the Bernie race, and that filly by FedBiz won here on March 15th. And although it was a next out turf winner, it was Passion Factor who won and looked solid here on the grass in Thursday's last race. So that could be a budding live race, perhaps. We'll see with the one Bernie from that inside post. Here's race number 11. We go with 12, and it does almost seem redundant at this point to mention we have yet another turf race and a 12-horse field attached to it. But with the 12-horse number, don't forget there's a couple of defections in the body of the field. Now, that does move in the number 10-horse Battle of Blenheim, couple of stalls to post number 8, which I like, and he's a major player just looking at his resume. But do take note that the 13 Basha drew in, but I think hands down, unequivocally, most importantly, the 14 Super Scat Daddy is in the race as well, and he looks like, despite the tough post, I'd venture a guess that he's the horse to beat. I mean, his body of work, his figures, his consistency at a higher level than this have all been really good for Mark Casse, and he is an absolute major player, along with the 10 Battle of Blenheim, and even a horse like the 11 Honey Won't, who I have second for trainer Bill Mott. To the main track we go, race number 12, everybody, and this will be our dirt finale. And we have a pretty important early scratch in this race, the 8 Jakarta. Now, with her out, maybe you lose a little bit of speed, but it does look like this could be a swiftly run race. And swiftly run is an issue that Liza Star just doesn't seem to have any problem with. In fact, why don't we go back and look at her win here in the lead-up to the Curlin, Florida Derby back on Thursday, March the 25th, or this was a Wednesday afternoon, with her back on her game. And I remember talking and texting Peter Walder right after this win for Lutz saying, you know, Pete, I think this may have been her best effort ever for you. And, I mean, she beat a legit field, good field, Day by Day and Flat Awesome Jenny were on a roll, both looking for their third consecutive wins. And Liza Star went to the lead and never looked back. I also think with her, 6 is her best game, and she's right back in going 6. She's been an amazing claim and a neat horse to watch evolve as she has just raised her game to the next level and then some steadily for Peter Walder and Luch. JP's Delight obviously has done very little wrong. In fact, she's 4 for 5 with that one defeat coming at the hands of Pink Sands and Company in a rapidly run inside information race here on the Pegasus World Cup undercard. She looks good. And maybe the biggest story of the race happens to land upon the 9 Pacific Gal from the outside. Now, she is classy in her own right, maybe a little snake bitten. She's had some bad luck here and there, but she's kept really good company throughout her career. In fact, nothing but grade 3 and grade 2 races on her resume from December 15th of 2018 on. Now, she's back off a layoff, but I spoke with her trainer, John Kimmel, yesterday afternoon, and John was able to tell me that she just had a minor issue last summer, and they decided to give her a little time off. The video, by the way, on the left side that you're watching is her workout from just a few days ago on April 4th, so kudos for XBTV for having that. And John felt as though, although this race came up pretty salty as far as competition goes, felt as though she was fit and ready to run as well as she has had in the past. Told me her coat looks good, her energy level, everything is good. She's ready to run, and I think maybe the biggest blessing of all, in addition to, of course, having that steady work tab under her belt at Palm Meadows, is the fact that she drew a really good post where she'll be outside looking in, so to speak, and she's going to be able to target a lot of those speed horses for a veteran trainer alongside, I don't have my glasses on, is that Jose Ortiz? I know that's the Broman colors right there. Bring my glasses back for the afternoon races. But good man, J.C. Kimmel. We also commiserated no New York Rangers hockey. John, a big New York Rangers fan, and good luck to Pacific Gal, and I appreciated him talking to me yesterday. But a really solid race. I'm going to go 2-4-9, Liza Star second, JP's Delight on top, and a little Pacific Gal who John's pretty high on coming back off the bench, capping my try. Here we go with race number 13. We're on the turf here, going a 2-turn mile. Older $16,000 to $14,000 claimers in the last, and this race very much in the same vein as just about every other grass race we've talked about today, where trip and luck are probably more paramount than anything else. And this race is so competitive and so tough and you might be looking at a 7-2 or 4-1 favorite. My idea is, at least my notion was, my ethos in looking at this race was, I don't want a short price. And I'm going to give another chance. Although this 16 claimer is an absolute war, I'm going to give another chance to the 2 Farley, who I had liked here. A lot of people liked him because he got bet in his last start on Fountain of Youth Day and should have pulled the replay, but I didn't. Maybe we'll pull it for the afternoon conversation for the 13th. This horse was buried inside and really had a tough trip in his last start. And if he gets clear today, maybe he can cut everybody down, along with a horse like the 3 King of Spades. Maybe slightly horse to beat in this one could be the 4 Flyoff, who obviously has had some starts and fits throughout his career, but has come back and as a 6-year-old, and a 6-year-old with only 10 starts under his belt, in pretty good shape for trainer George Weaver. We'll see. He'll have Edgar Zayas riding. Edgar had a nice win yesterday for Shug on Finding Fame, an unbeaten Empire Maker filly who looks stakes-bound, much like our stakes-bound, or certainly stakes-quality track announcer, Pete Aiello, who's standing by. Pete, we'll send it up to you. We'll get some scratches and changes, and wishing everybody the best of luck on this 13-race card here at Gulfstream.